Sometimes we deal with classes that have some commonality. For example, both student and teacher can have common properties like first name, last name, and full name that combines the two, as well as methods like walk and talk. Now, we don't want to write this code in two separate places, once in the student class, once in the teacher class, because duplication in code is bad. It's better to write this code once and reuse it in many different places. And this is where we use inheritance. So we extract these common properties and methods and put them in a separate class like person. And then have student and teacher inherit these commonalities. This is inheritance in object-oriented programming. So inheritance is a mechanism that allows us to reuse our code. Now in this scenario, we refer to the person class as the parent or the base or the superclass, and student and teacher classes, we refer to them as child, derived, or subclass. Different people use different terms to refer to the same concept. So let's see this in action. We start by creating the person class. Here we create a constructor with two parameters. First name of type string and last name of type string. Now here we need a getter called full name for combining the first and last names. So get full name, and here we return this.first name plus a space and this.last name. Now here we can have other methods like walk and talk. So let's implement one more method, walking. Okay, so here's our person class. Now let's create the student class. So right after the person, we create another class called student. And here we use the extends keyword to tell the student class inherit everything from the person class. Now a student can have additional properties and methods. For example, every student can have a student ID. So let's create a constructor and give it a parameter, public student ID of type number. Now here we have a compilation error saying constructors of derived classes must contain a super call. So in TypeScript, we have a special keyword called super that we use to reference the base class. So here we type super followed by parentheses to call the constructor of the base class. Now here we need a first and last name, and that means we need to add these parameters in this constructor as well. So public first name of type string and public last name of type string. Now earlier I told you that when we use an access modifier like public or private here, we're essentially creating a parameter property. So the TypeScript compiler will create a property by this name and initialize it for us. Now in this case, we don't want to use the public modifier here because we already created these properties in the person class over here. Okay, so let's simplify our code and remove the public modifier. We only need it for the student ID, which is a property specific to this class. Okay, now here we call super and pass first and last names. Good. Now in this class, we can have additional methods like take test, and here we just log taking a test. Okay, so this is inheritance. Now let's create a student object. So let's create a student object, new student, and here we pass one for the student ID and John at gmail.com. Now let's type student period. Look, we have inherited first name, full name, and last name from the base class, and we also have student ID that we implemented in the student class. And similarly, we inherited the walk method from the base class, but we also implemented an additional method in the student class. This is the benefit of using inheritance. Now, one last thing before we finish this lesson. In this example, I implemented both these classes in the same file, but as a best practice, we should implement each class in a separate file. We're not going to do that yet because first we have to talk about modules so you understand how modules work before you can move your classes to separate files.